Now, everything was going great as we were heading into the final days before Rebel News Live. And in fact, as you know, we were reached out to by Rumble, which is one of the competitors to YouTube. It's a video service. It's a live streaming service. And they said, Ezra, we're concerned about freedom of speech in Canada. We'd like to do a Rumble live stream with Rebel News in Toronto. We'll bring in some Rumble talent like Donald Trump Jr., and Glenn Greenwald and Viva Fry and you guys. And it was wonderful. We were very excited. We were selling extra tickets. Maybe you were there. Everything was going great until the venue operator told us about the shakedown he was going under at the hands of the government. Because the venue we chose is in central Toronto. It's a little bit north Toronto. It's in a great big area called Downs View Park. It has soccer arenas and hockey arenas and volleyball parks. It's a huge area because it used to be an Air Force base. In fact, there's still an airstrip there the Prime Minister uses to fly into Toronto from Ottawa because it's a little bit out of the way. Anyways, the underlying land is still owned by the federal government because it's a former military base. And it's operated by the government's landlord of Crown Land, which is a Crown corporation called Canada Lands Company. And I mean, I knew it was on Downsview Park, and I was sort of vaguely aware that it was sort of a special federal property, but never in a million years did I think that would be an issue. I mean, I walk the streets on government land all the time, and I'm not arrested for it, at least not usually. My friend David Menzies has been. But in the final weeks, about 2 weeks out from both the Rebel News Live event and the special Rumble Live event with Donald Trump Jr., our event venue operator, the person with whom we had this friendship contract, this anti-cancellation contract, he was threatened by the Canada Lands Company property manager, Alan Schacht, who said that the events could not proceed, he told me, unless we paid close to $50,000 in unnecessary and bizarre security costs. Like I said, we're happy buying security anyways. And in fact, we're happy buying a few extra just to make sure everyone's feeling good. But this underlying landlord had no right to impose it on a private event if the venue operator thought we were doing the right things, which he said we were. Not only did they demand we provide security for the entire Downsview Park area, not only did they demand we hire Toronto Police Service, apparently they're for sale, I guess, but they demanded, and you can see this on the insane bill they foisted on us, they demanded that we buy barriers so that protesters could come and have an area, and actually that we even pay for porta potties, pay for portable toilets for those protesters too. Now we asked, and there was no intelligence whatsoever, no security analysis whatsoever showing that there would be protesters. In the 9 years we've been doing this, we've never had protesters. And to say, oh my God, this event is so terrifying and so dangerous, you need to, quadruple your security, hire expensive city police. Don't we already pay for those already? And set up for protesters was insane and absurd. And it was, I think, deliberately insane and absurd because the goal was not to keep things safe. There were no protesters. The goal was to make it impossible for the venue operator to pay that bill and impossible for him to pass it on to us. Because I think we had a grand total of 1,000 people between the two events. You can't add on a $50 per person charge for security. It's insane. It makes no sense. There was no basis for it. And I should tell you, if there was a basis for us, we would have known and we would have paid for it. And we would probably have said to the city, we pay taxes here. We expect the police to do work without being hired as mercenaries. It wasn't for that. It was for the plan that we couldn't make the payment and we were blocked. I should add one more thing. Downsview Park, where we had the two events, is in the district called York Centre. That's the political district, the riding, as it used to be called, of York Centre. And who is the Member of Parliament and Cabinet Minister for York Centre? Well, no one less than Yara Sachs, that crazy left-wing liberal. Hey, I got a question for you now that I'm talking about Yara Sachs. You might remember her. She's the Jewish liberal MP who went to take a selfie with Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the PLO terrorist group. Speaking of that, right now in Toronto, there is a large Hamas protest going on right in the heart of the city at the University of Toronto. And it is a threat, and it is threats to Jews. For example, I saw a video of a Jewish professor trying to get into the school. He was turned away. Do Hamas protesters, who are trespassing, by the way, do they have to pay for security? Do they have to pay for fences? Do they have to pay for porta potties for counter protesters? Or is it just peaceful journalists like us? I attended the events, and I tried not to be mad at the ordinary cops and the ordinary security who were there. They're just regular guys and gals who were doing a job, and they were told by their bosses, hey, you have a special project. You're going to go hang out at Rebel all weekend and just stand around. So, I mean, how can you be mad at a ordinary cop or an ordinary security who was asked to be there? I told the cops to get out of the building and go fight crime. And I didn't say it in a mean way. I just said, you're not needed inside here. Go outside and fight crime. Those were my exact words. They counted on us not being able to meet this $50,000 fake charge because no rational business person would proceed with that. Certainly not the venue operator. But our partners, Rumble, paid the bill. They're a much larger company than us, and they believe so deeply in freedom of the press and freedom of speech, and they wanted this event to go ahead. And by the way, it was a huge success. They paid the bill. I should tell you, I spoke several times with the venue operator himself. He was terrified of the threats against him by Canada Land Company, that they would tear up his lease and his whole life's dream would be destroyed by it. We had two of the best events we've ever had. And if you were there, you know what I mean. And if you weren't there, you can still watch them. The Rumble live stream, about 180,000 people have watched it. I encourage you to as well. What's incredible to me is how brazen the government was about this. They didn't even pretend they had a security study. They didn't even pretend this was for real, and they didn't pretend to be gentle. I really felt when I was talking to the venue operator that I was talking to a hostage who was saying, please don't fight back. Please just pay the ransom. Here's a tweet that Yara Sachs did on the weekend in the middle of our conference, and you got to wait till that last line. She really is interfering with police in the city. I'll read it to you in full. My statement on the Rebel News event in York Center with Donald Trump Jr., which is sort of funny because her attack that follows is really not about Donald Trump Jr. I'll read it. She says, sadly, I have learned that Rebel News will be bringing its hateful and extremist views to York Center, the riding I am proud to represent when it holds Canada's most provocative conference, including Donald Trump Jr. and other MAGA conservatives at Downsview Park this weekend. Now, I should tell you that I actually live in the district. I think I've told you that before. I live in the riding, so I'm always there. And I should say I feel very welcome there. My neighbors are super friendly. In fact, I sort of get along with, I don't know everyone on the street, but I feel really great about my neighborhood. And when I go for a walk, sometimes I wear my Rebel hoodie when I walk the dog. And I get stopped at least 2 or 3 times every time I go for a walk by people who want to chat. So I think maybe that's just where I live, but I think Rebel News is sort of loved in York Center. And I'm talking from people of all sorts of different backgrounds. I mean, I hear Chinese voices, I hear Persian voices, I hear Russian voices. The place I live is a real mix. And people like Rebel News. I'm just saying, when she says we're not welcome in the riding, I feel pretty welcome. I think, in fact, the only extremist around is her old pal Mahmoud Abbas. And by the way, I went to a shopping center a few weeks ago in the heart of the riding, and people seem to agree with me, not her. Remember this?
Backstabbing us right in front of our face.
Is she actually holding his hand?
I know, it's crazy. Yara Sachs.
Yes, and this is a bad guy.
She has disowned her own people, and I think she's looking for political gains.
I'm not surprised by anything. Am I afraid? I'm very afraid.
Anyways, back to her statement. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. She says, while I am a strong supporter of the right to free speech, Let me be clear that the vile views espoused by Rebel News are not welcome in York Center, nor do its residents support them. Whenever anyone says I support free speech, but, always ignore everything after the word but. They don't. And come on, do you really think that Trudeau's Liberals actually support free speech? I mean, for heaven's sakes, they put us under martial law because some truckers honk their horns. Again, I'm in York Center every day, which is more than Yara Sachs can say. It's the opposite. I actually haven't seen anyone support her. Rebel News, its commentators, staff, and associates have espoused everything from anti-Semitism to Islamophobia. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think we're pretty pro-Israel. In fact, sometimes people call us Rabbi News. I don't know if you ever heard that one, or Rebel Jews. They say that in a mean way because we're pretty pro-Israel. I think we're fair. I think we're pro-Taiwan also. We're pro-America also. There's a lot of countries we support. We support Israel. And it's not just because I'm Jewish. Most of our staff are not Jewish. I am Jewish, but our concerns about radical Islam, I think, are normal concerns for all Canadians, concerns she obviously doesn't share because she hasn't put out a tweet condemning the University of Toronto Hamas encampment. Isn't it really weird? She's got more hatred for Rebel News than the Hamas supporters.